All right, let's dive into some pretty fascinating spiritual concepts today. We're going to be looking at excerpts from the Murli. It's a daily spiritual discourse, and this one is dated October 26th, 2024.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and it goes into some pretty deep ideas about life and death and the whole cycle of time. Offers a really unique perspective on personal transformation, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting how the Murli approaches these things. It doesn't really get bogged down with rituals or specific religious practices.
Right.
Instead, it kind of presents like a framework, a philosophical framework, I guess you could say, for understanding, like our place in the universe and the potential we each have for inner growth.
Yeah. One of the things that jumped out at me right away was this whole idea of a spiritual father guiding souls back home to a state of peace and happiness. I mean, what are your thoughts on that concept?
Well, I think you can think of it almost like a journey of returning to our true essence. Like the Murli talks about moving away from the dirtiness of the old world, but using that term to represent like negativity and attachments, all those things that kind of weigh us down. It's about shedding those burdens to experience like a pure and more fulfilling existence.
So it's not so much about a physical location as it is a state of being.
Exactly. And to really grasp this journey, I think the Murli introduces the concept of a cycle of time.
Okay.
It explains that we go through these golden and iron ages, experiencing both happiness and sorrow as part of this kind of cosmic dance.
So we're all in this like cosmic Ferris wheel.
Yeah.
Experiencing the highs and lows of life.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, but where do we fit in right now? Like,
Right.
where are we on this Ferris wheel?
That's where this idea of the confluence age comes in.
Okay.
The Murli says that we're in this unique transitional phase, kind of like the bridge between the iron and golden ages.
Oh.
And this period is especially significant because it presents this rare opportunity for like accelerated spiritual growth and receiving a divine inheritance, it calls it.
This divine inheritance concept, that really has me intrigued. What does that actually entail?
Well, you can almost imagine it as tapping into your true potential,
Okay.
Reclaiming those qualities like peace and love and power that are already there within us. They're just kind of dormant.
Mm-hmm.
And the beauty of this inheritance is that it's not fleeting.
Right.
It spans across multiple lifetimes.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that we are souls on a journey, not just physical beings limited to a single lifespan.
That's a very profound way of looking at it. I mean, it really does shift the focus from the temporary to the eternal.
Yes.
Now, speaking of tools for this spiritual journey, the Murli talks about a rosary of victory and a discuss of self-realization.
Right.
How did those fit into this picture?
Well, think of the Rosary of Victory as a representation of the knowledge and understanding. The things that give us power to overcome challenges.
Okay.
It's about kind of equipping ourselves with the wisdom to navigate the ups and downs of life.
And the discus of self-realization.
Yes.
That sounds pretty powerful.
It is. The discus is used symbolically to represent the focused effort needed to break free from negative patterns and karmic cycles. It's about taking active steps to liberate ourselves from those limitations that keep us bound to suffering, the ones that we kind of create for ourselves, really.
So it's not just about waiting for things to change. It's about doing the inner work.
Exactly.
Right.
The Murli really emphasizes personal responsibility. It reminds us that our choices have consequences.
Right.
And those consequences, they ripple through our soul's journey and shape our future experiences.
Which kind of brings us to this concept of the cycle of 84 births.
Right.
The Murli describes it as this journey through both happiness and sorrow, even comparing it to being trapped in the jail of the womb. Could you unpack that a little bit for us?
Sure. The analogy of the jail of the womb is meant to highlight the limitations that we experience as a result of our past actions.
Okay.
It's a way of representing those karmic consequences that we face. We're all born into certain circumstances, right? We all carry the weight of past choices. But the Murli reminds us that we also have the power to break free from this cycle.
So how do we break free? How do we escape this metaphorical jail? Murli talks about remembering the spiritual father.
Yes.
How does that play into all of this?
That's a great question. Remembering the spiritual father, I think in a broader sense, can be seen as connecting with, a higher power or positive principles or even our own inner wisdom.
Yeah.
It's like this remembrance acts as an anchor. It provides strength and clarity as we move through all the complexities of life. It's about cultivating that inner connection to something greater than ourselves.
Yeah, it's like tapping into this source of guidance, strength.
Yeah.
It helps us rise above the limitations of our ego and make better choices aligned with our higher purpose. Right. Okay, that makes sense. So it's
Yeah.
about moving from like fear and just reacting all the time
Yeah.
to a place of like inner knowing.
Exactly.
Okay. But where does detachment fit into all this? The Murli talks about, detaching from the material world
Right.
while still like living in it.
Yeah, detachment, I think in this context, it's about cultivating a state of freedom. Freedom from attachments,
Mm-hmm.
to possessions and desires and outcomes.
Right.
But it doesn't mean you have to renounce the world, like live as an ascetic or anything.
Yeah.
It's more about shifting our perspective. We can still engage with the material world, but we don't have to cling to it.
Mm-hmm.
We understand its temporary nature.
So it's all about finding balance between, living life fully and not getting caught up in this illusion of permanence.
Yeah.
So it sounds like mindfulness almost.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. And the Murli refers to this as the pilgrimage of remembrance. And it's this journey of turning inward, connecting with our true selves, that spiritual essence that's beyond the limits of the physical.
Can you give us an example of what this pilgrimage of remembrance might look like in like everyday life?
Okay, sure. Imagine, going about your day, working, talking with people, taking care of all your responsibilities.
Right.
But while you're doing all those things, you have this awareness of your true self, your soul as the observer. You're in each moment, but not overly attached to the results. You're acting with a purpose, but you don't have to control everything.
Oh, okay. So it's about like having this inner sanctuary of peace, even when things are busy around you.
Exactly.
You mentioned before this confluence age, this special time for this spiritual journey. What makes it so special?
Well, the Murli says the confluence age, this time of transition, is unique because the kind of veil between the physical world and the spiritual world, it's thinner.
Okay.
It's easier to connect. The spiritual father, the source of wisdom and guidance, is more accessible, let's say.
So it's like this window of opportunity has opened.
Yeah.
A cosmic window of opportunity for us to grow spiritually.
Precisely. And what makes this time extra special is that the spiritual father isn't just like watching from afar.
Okay.
He's actively guiding those who are trying to reconnect with their true selves.
You mentioned earlier the idea of individuals becoming Narayan from an ordinary man
Yeah.
and Lakshmi from an ordinary woman.
Yes.
I mean, that imagery really speaks to the potential for change during this time, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Narayan and Lakshmi represent the divine masculine and feminine, symbolizing those qualities like peace and prosperity and spiritual power. The Murli says that by aligning ourselves with the spiritual father, learning from him, we can actually embody these qualities and realize our full potential.
It's like recognizing that divine spark within us and letting it shine.
Yes.
And speaking of sharing, the Murli encourages us to share this knowledge with others.
Absolutely. It really emphasizes that. It says sharing this knowledge is like donating life. It's empowering others. It helps them begin their own journey.
I love that, donating life.
Yeah.
That really sums it up. It makes me think of the discus of self-realization. Can you elaborate a bit on how we can use this discus to get rid of sins, as the Murli says?
Yeah. So the discus, it's not a real weapon, obviously. It's a symbol of focused effort,
Okay.
determination, the will to face our flaws. Spinning the discus of self-realization is like looking inward, identifying the bad habits, the karmic things that keep us suffering, and then choosing to break free.
So not passively hoping, but taking charge.
Exactly. And as we do this, the Murli tells us it helps to remember the entire cycle, the 84 births.
Yeah.
See the impact our choices have over multiple lifetimes and recognize that we have the power to change.
Yeah, it's like looking into this cosmic mirror almost, seeing all the cause and effect play out over lifetimes. It's humbling, but it's also kind of empowering.
Right.
Makes you realize, wow, our actions really do matter. But it also shows us that we have the ability to change.
It's like we're given this cosmic cheat sheet,
Right.
We're let in on the secret. We know this cycle exists so we can make better choices.
Okay, but what about those who haven't encountered this knowledge? Are they just stuck repeating the same mistakes?
Well, that's where donating life comes in, right?
Yeah.
By sharing this with others, we're planting these seeds of awareness.
Okay, yeah.
And those can, eventually lead to transformation.
So it's not about converting people. It's about sharing and letting them find their own path.
Exactly. And the Murli says this sharing, it's a powerful form of service, a way to help uplift humanity.
It's like we become these agents of positive change, helping to create a more peaceful world.
Exactly. And the Murli suggests this time, the confluence age, it's a crucial time for sharing this knowledge. It's when humanity is like ready for change. Our actions can have a big impact.
So it's not just about us, our personal growth. It's about everyone evolving together.
Yes. The Murli encourages us to see ourselves as part of something bigger. Like we're all interconnected, our actions affect everything.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that we're all in this together.
Precisely. And the Murli offers this vision, this beautiful vision of a world transformed by knowledge, a world where, peace and love and harmony just prevail.
That's something worth striving for. So as we wrap up our deep dive here, what's one key takeaway you'd want our listeners to really think about?
I think the big question is, if this 84 birth cycle is real, are you living in a way that sets you free?
Wow, that's powerful. Thanks for walking us through all of this.
It was my pleasure. Always enjoy exploring these ideas with you.
And for you listening out there, we hope this sparked your curiosity, maybe even inspired you to learn more. Remember, real transformation starts with just one step. That step toward understanding. And it's always richer when shared.